This is a very good point, what he's about to say. What happened? What happened to his brain? Where did this guy go? Where is he? Where is that Peterson at? Somebody said I need to watch this before my conversation tonight. Entities here. This is a human, it requires like some sort of conscious differentiation to create these concepts. These concepts don't exist. You can't see sex anywhere, right? There's no way to see sex in the same way that you can't see a chair. Oh, this is gonna trigger me, isn't it? Am I gonna talk philosophy with this guy? Oh no. You've got like a collection or organization of matter, and you might be able to describe like its constituent elements, but you can't see that particular thing, because that particular thing it's a human organization of the concept.
After watching that clip, some of you may be thinking to yourself,
oh my god, this is like, you know, sometimes people are so smart they're stupid.
Now, as much as I love watching Destiny flail around as he tries to explain this, the truth is, he's onto something. We don't see objects, and Jordan Peterson is more aware of this than anyone.
It's like when you look out at the world, you just see, well, look, there's objects out there. And by the way, you don't see objects. When you look at the world, you just see it, and you think, well, seeing is easy because there the things are, and all you have to do is like, you know, turn your head and they appear. And that's just so wrong that it's almost impossible to overstate.
Now,
very true. Wait, hold on. Where did that Peterson go? That was 2016 Peterson.
with a very well-known and mainstream manifestation of this disagreement, the debates over gender ideology and the answer to the question, what is a woman?
The question of what is a woman is just a retard's way of trying to get a gotcha because they're either too intellectually lazy to explore, like trans topics, or they're genuinely too retarded to understand how sophisticated or complicated language is. Any singular word is truly going to be pretty difficult to define when you're talking about the difference between like universal categories of things versus like particular things themselves. Just definitionally, these are incredibly difficult things to pin down.
Did you catch it? Listen to that last part again.
Any singular word is truly going to be pretty difficult to define when you're talking about the difference between like universal categories of things versus like particular things themselves.
Universals versus particulars.
Wait, I thought this guy was a retard. I didn't even know. Okay, never mind. Oh, maybe this will be like a substantive video. Plato's forms.
If there's one thing you take away from this video, it is understanding this fundamental philosophical dichotomy, and more importantly, how it structures the ongoing civil war between the left, who can be described as philosophical nominalists, and the right, who can be described as philosophical realists.
So the way that Jung presents it in the book is that we have a dispute, a medieval dispute among theologians and philosophers over the ontological status of universals. So if I say, for example, that here's a horse, there's a horse, okay, 3 horses. Now, only the particular horse exists, or does the category of horse also exist? Does the general category or the general grouping, the species or whatever the case is, the idea of the horse, does that also exist? So is a debate over the existence of universals. Are only particulars real, or are universals also real? And the idea here is that nominalism came down on the side that only particulars are real.
True.
That universals are a function not of what exists, but of what we say.
In the mind.
Nominalism suggests that universalism is a function just of the act of naming, in effect. That the only reality is the individual.
The nominalist philosophy, which is the philosophy that characterizes the left, claims that universal categories don't exist, only individuals in particulars. In other words, there is no objective.
No. No, that's completely wrong. Oh, no. Hold on one second. I feel like the difference between the left and the right is not the difference of universals or particulars. Because, by the way, regardless of what a nominalist thinks or whatever philosophy nerds think, everybody believes in universals as being real things. Just as a quick thing, I'm going to give you a quick summary on a philosopher that I've never read about a topic that I've never formally studied. So take everything I say with mountains of salt, okay? I think there's an argument over whether or not, or there was an argument, or in philosophy there's different schools of thought on whether or not universal forms exist. So, for instance, when we talk about a chair, there are particular chairs. I'm sitting in a thing we call a chair. That's a chair. There are chairs everywhere, okay? But does the universal concept of a chair, if every chair was destroyed, would there be the concept of a chair somewhere in some mind-independent manner, right? Not reliant on a human conceptualizing it, but just is there like a universal form of chair? Is that a real thing? And some people, I say some people, I don't know. I think this originates. I think this is like Plato's theory of forms or something. But who cares? He's a loser. The idea of a universal or a particular. Everybody believes in both of these things. People think that categories are real. People don't really question whether or not they're mind dependent or not. Like nobody actually thinks about any of this shit. Leftists believe in universals just as much as conservatives do. The leftist just defines the universal category in a different way. They don't reject the universal category. And this is evidenced by the fact that for instance, if leftists didn't care about redefining universals rather than just eliminating them, they wouldn't care what pronouns you use. The reason why they care about the pronouns is because they still believe in the universal category. They just want to expand or change it, right?
Just of the act of naming, in effect. That the only reality is the individual.
The nominalist philosophy, which is the philosophy that characterizes the left, claims that universal categories don't exist, only individuals in particulars. In other words, there is no objective reality to the concept or category of woman. There are only individuals who nominally identify with the word woman.
The answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman? Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
I don't know who that guy is, but he's an idiot. And whoever, I don't know if he was a professor or what. We watched that film, and that professor that Walsh was talking to is nonsense. You can never ever say that a thing is what if you identify as it. That doesn't, no word or anything ever works like that. With the exception, maybe, of categories that are explicitly just things that we want them to be what we say they are. So like a name, for instance, right? And that's about all I can think of. But yeah, my name is whatever I say my name is, because that's what I want you to call me. But even that isn't saying what a name. Wait, hold on. Oh, fuck. No, that's not actually true. Am I correct in saying that Wittgenstein said that every single problem of philosophy was actually just a misunderstanding of language? Does he say that? Because I just realized, hold on, I'm committing an error. I'm saying that a name is whatever you say the name is, but that's not true. You're not saying that the name, the category, is whatever you say it is. You're saying my name, like in this category, this thing called a name, the thing that I want to be referred to is, and then you're doing a thing. You're not saying what a name is in the same way that you're saying what a woman is. It's not true. I committed that was a language error. I shouldn't say that anymore. Fuck, I just realized that. Because when somebody says a woman is whoever defines themselves as a woman, a name is whatever you call yourself, those aren't the same thing. You agree what a name is. A name is a thing that you call somebody. You're not saying that a name is whatever you want it to be, but a name is whatever you want it to be. But when you say a name is whatever you want it to be, you're talking about like the content or whatever of what a name is. You're not talking definitionally about what a name is. So even though you're still using the same, what kind of verb is it a, I don't remember what they're called. I don't think they're adverbs. What kind of verb is that? Yeah, you're saying a different thing. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Fuck, my bad. We're going back to this. Okay.
The answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman.
Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
But what are they identifying as?
As a woman.
So what is that?
As a woman.
Do you know what a circular definition is?
I do.
On the right, people who adopt a philosophical realist position would argue that there is an objective definition of woman and would put forward something like adult human female. Now, as you'll see by the end of this video, both of these
Adult human female is a stupid description for woman, because female, you're still begging well, what is female, right? That's the fact that I think the easiest evidence of a person being a dipshit and not even considering the prompt is what is a woman? A female. Well, fuck me, my friend. My God, the synonym master has shown up. Thank God we've been saved by, yes, true. Woman and female, these are synonyms for one another. Thank you.
sides are only partially correct, and the better perspective is the enlightened centrist one that people like pre-Coma, pre-Daily Wire Jordan Peterson have adopted. Postmodernists like Judith Butler, Michel Foucault, or Philosophy Tube occupy the extreme nominalist position, while religious fundamentalists like Muhammad Hijab or friend of the channel Andrew Wilson occupy the extreme realist position. Destiny, at least in this clip, seems to plant his flag firmly in the nominalist camp.
Sex for mammals exists outside of human understanding, though. No, it doesn't. That's not true. Sex is a category of things. No, there might be underlying facts that are underlying matter or whatever, where animals might have particular things and go about in particular ways and create babies and all of that. But the categories of sex, these categorical things. So like my position would be that there are categories of things, but these are all mind-dependent things. Like we as humans create categories of things that other creatures might not. It's hard for us to imagine because we're people, but other creatures might not distinguish between like a rock and a plant, or a leaf and a branch. I don't fucking know. Or a dick or some balls, right? But we do as humans. We create different categories because there's purpose in that. It helps us. There's utility. It makes sense. I need to be able to distinguish between an apple and dirt. If I'm trying to feed somebody, I have to create different words and categories because they provide utility to me and us when we're navigating the world and communicating with each other. I just don't think that these things are, I think these things are mind dependent. They don't exist somewhere. They're not a feature of the universe that humans are discovering, the universal form of an apple. We're just noticing patterns and then giving names to said patterns, and yeah. Things are ways that humans organize things on the planet. It's our way of like making sense of the world. These universal categories don't exist outside of human understanding.
Like I said, there is some truth in this position, but if you take it to its logical conclusion, you end up making arguments like this.
But let's just use the example of water. Maybe we could agree that water is H2O. That was true even before we knew about chemistry. It was H2O. True. I'm sorry?
This isn't true.
That water has not always been H2O?
Yeah, all you have to do is cross the Mexican border. And over there, it's aqua. That's H2O, not water.
Aqua means water. Aqua is water.
It's a different term.
Actually, it's agua. It's not aqua, right?
And we're referring to terms and definitions here.
No, I'm referring to water. The stuff that fills lakes and rivers.
The stuff that
talking
fills
about the word water.
many things fill lakes and rivers.
Okay.
Again, the philosophical nominalist
There was a miscommunication contextually happening here, but Vosh was kind of working his way towards something. I just don't know if he knows what. The professor was correct, but Vosh was working in a different context, but he was also just, yeah.
On the left do have a point. Objective universal categories are hard to nail down, especially when it's very easy to identify exceptions. Philosophical realists will claim that the definition of woman is adult human female, but then they will struggle to stay consistent with this belief when dealing with edge cases.
Transgender woman from Orange is the New Black.
I never watched that show.
I've never watched that show either, but she's on the cover of Time magazine.
Oh.
Or he's on the cover of Time magazine.
Let's also put a picture of her by the mantle. Keep the kids away from the fire.
Yes.
Him. Shoot. Whatever. Z. I don't know. You can admonish me off the bat because I can't keep this straight.
Wait, but why can't he keep it straight? It should be incredibly obvious, right? Because he and she literally just mean chromosomes, right? You're never mixing those up, right? It should be really easy, no?
But these slip-ups aside, here's the inevitable problem that the left-wing nominalists face. If there are no objective universals, then our most basic categories that society depends on, like marriage or the nuclear family, are liable to be deconstructed into pure subjectivity.
Correct. But, well... Well, I imagine we'll probably talk about this. I think I talked about it in like 2 hours. The issue is that this is a big issue that a lot of people have. Just because something is socially constructed doesn't make it arbitrary or meaningless, right? Like, football doesn't exist in the universe. It's not like a feature of reality, okay? But there are discrete, concrete rules about football. There are here are individual rules that we all agree on, and they have very particular, precise meanings. And you can even change these, right? There are different, number of downs between college football and professional football, right? There are differences that you can have, and you can change these theoretically at any point in time if you wanted to, right? Just because something is socially constructed, just because it's not like a feature of the universe, doesn't make it meaningless, doesn't make it not important, doesn't make it subject to arbitrary destruction at any point in time. If anything, you could argue that social constructs that arise out of human interaction are some of the most important things, arguably more important than matter, more important than the actual things in the universe, because we make decisions and we do, we decide things in our lives regarding these immaterial things sometimes, right? Like arguably the existence of God. If you're religious, obviously, if I'm an atheist, I would say God doesn't exist, but God, even if you're religious, God is an immaterial thing. So yeah, the idea that people will say this, I'll say something like, oh, well, this is probably like a social construction. And I'll be like, oh, you think it's socially constructed, so it's not real, it's not important? It's like, well, hold on. Like Harry Potter isn't real. I really like Harry Potter. Excuse me, right? There's whatever.
When we start breaking down these basic...
Do you think an alien would not observe our species to have two genders the same way they would recognize even and odd numbers? I have no idea. I have no clue. They might. It might be that that having a binary gendered gametes would exist on every single planet. But it's, I'm limited based on the life I understand. It's possible, I guess, life could exist in some other form that wouldn't even have gender distinctions, right? One interesting exploration of this concept is in the story Ender's Game. Basically, humans are at wars with these giant bug creatures, and they end up basically killing all the bug creatures. And in the course of this big war between humans and bugs, the bug queen creature realizes at some point during the war that oh, holy fuck, we're like a hive mind, and killing individual bugs to us is like cutting your hair. We could never have conceived that every single individual human has thoughts and feelings and emotions and conscious experiences. We never thought that. We just killed you all because we thought there was one hive mind on Earth. And obviously, we wouldn't kill the hive mind on Earth. That would be crazy, cruel, and terrible. But we never imagined that individual humans would have consciousness, right? And then with the buggers, we would never consider the opposite, that all of these things are connected to one central hive mind and just killing a random things like cutting your fingernails or cutting hair or something. So I don't know. It's hard to, when you say would an alien conceive of this? There are some things that I would imagine we would all share concepts around. So basic mathematical identities and truths, I would hope, and things like the periodic table of elements, I think. But it's hard to say. Really easy, no?
But these slip-ups aside, here's the inevitable problem that the left-wing nominalists face. If there are no objective universals, then our most basic categories that society depends on, like marriage or the nuclear family, are liable to be deconstructed into pure subjectivity.
When we start breaking down these basic central institutions, like the institution of the family and marriage, that's where the harm comes from.
We are rattling to the core heteronormative family structures. What they have to lose is the belief in their supremacy, their immutability, their necessity, their universality, and that is a big loss for them. But they're going to have to grieve that loss. And that's what we're telling them. Grieve that loss and enter into a better world with the rest of us.
And the more that people believe, the more that we build a society where it's believed that marriage is objectively meaningless, right? It's entirely subjective. It's just not making you feel.
And this is where conservatives are kind of starting to try to make a comeback, but they haven't figured it out yet, is if you want to argue for your social construct over somebody else's, you have to put forth positive arguments for it. You can't just rely on the fact that, well, it's been this way, so it won't change. And that's part of the reason why liberals won so much of the culture war. Although it's arguable to say if it's swinging back or not. But like, if you're just going to say over and over again, like, well, hold on, marriage is this way because it's always been this way and it's supposed to be. And then someone else is like, well, doesn't marriage kind of suck because it locks you as a woman out of basically doing anything interesting in your life? And now you've got birth control and jobs and college and you could travel the world, do all these cool things. Like, women look at that and they're like, okay, well, that actually seems pretty based. What did you guys say again? And the conservatives like, well, marriage has always been this way and it can't change. It's like, okay, well, it has changed. So something seems to be not adding up here in your guys' worldview. Yeah, you have to be able to put forth an argument to defend your particular social construction, your view of the world, which should be easy to do, especially for one that's lasted for so long. But a lot of people just kind of take it for granted, and liberals have done, everybody does this. We do this in the United States right now with democracy. We've taken it for granted, so we can't defend it anymore.
Feel better. The more that we build a society like that, I think that's where the harm comes in, the worse it is.
Reasonable people can disagree about the definition of marriage, but only the most ideologically possessed left-wing postmodern philosophical nominalist would argue that dissolving the nuclear family would produce better outcomes for children and society more broadly. It's statements like these that drive most of the justified reactionary sentiment on the right. And speaking of right-wing reactionaries, Destiny seems fully aware of the opposition to his ostensibly nominalist beliefs.
These are literally socially created concepts by humans. Language doesn't exist and categories don't exist outside of humans. Well, unless you think that there's a God that exists that creates categories of things. But then that's a whole other religious epistemic argument or whatever.
Okay, so how do you determine that anything is morally right or wrong? I do it from divine command. You do it from preference. I mean, That's a lot of words to not say anything.
God, he's so stupid. God, Dave is so dumb. I don't understand how people look at. I do understand it, but like people, they say so many words that mean things, but then they don't mean anything that other people say. People will look at me and they're like, "Oh, Destiny's an idiot's idea of a smart person because he talks fast." I'm like, "What?" Dave is an idiot's idea of a smart person because he memorizes some facts, but he can't engage substantively on anything. I thought this P.F. Young guy was just like a memer and then kind of like dumb. That's what I do. I don't know why I thought that.
Command. You do it from divine command. What does that mean? Explain that. So this means that I follow Christian ethics. I use transcendental. I do it from divine philosophy to create justifications.
Yes, these transcendental categories, right? Transcendental. I think transcendental meaning like ontologically, it's above or separate than just material or matter-based things, right? A transcendental category can hold a concept like a universal, and I don't have to be able to see it somewhere in the world because it's metaphysically different or separate from the matter that we see and observe. And if you're a religious person, then you're probably more prone to believe in like objective universal categories existing in some other place or stored in some other realm, some other immaterial place, because you're religious, because God lives there, right? So why couldn't things like good or evil or other things, these categories that are separate from our material understanding of the world,
for the values which come from God's laws. That's a lot of words to not say anything.
So it sounds like there's some sort of biblical scholarship, that there are things like he believes in like the 10 Commandments, and that from these 10 Commandments and from your reading of Scripture and from the teachings of, I guess, whatever religious denomination he is a part of, that from there you can derive your moral oughts, whatever ethical principles that you ought to follow, that are essentially coming from God, and then they're. Ooh, I really don't know if I like this, or if you can do this. That good, because he's taking like. He's doing like the meta ethics are your universal, and then your particulars are like your applied ethics, when this is more of an is-ought distinction, but the is stored in some like transcendental arena. The is like in some immaterial place, and then the oughts are, whatever, we grant it. He drew a chart, so if he's going to do graphics, we'll give it to him. Expressed through, I guess, like Scripture or priestly teachings or whatever else.
This is a decent summary of the philosophical bedrock underneath right-wing ideologies like Christian nationalism. Philosophical realism posits that universal categories exist and are divinely inspired. God created man and woman in his image, therefore men and women are fundamentally objective and divinely inspired categories. God commanded men and women to get married, thus marriage is a objective, divinely inspired category. The problem with philosophical realism is fairly obvious. Even if objective categories did exist and were defined in a foundational religious text like the Bible or the Quran, there is no way to interpret, or in theological terms, exegete these foundational religious texts without applying a human, i.e. subjective, level of interpretation.
That's really not the claim that religious fundamentalists make. The claim they make is worse than that, because they claim that the Quran, say, or the Bible for that matter, is the literal word of God. But more than that, they claim that their understanding of that word is correct, which means they conflate two things. Like, because you could imagine a situation where you had a book, and I'm not saying this is the case, it's a matter.
How old is this video? What happened? What happened to his brain? Is this an old video? This is a very good point, what he's about to say. Language is so complicated. When somebody says, the word of God is objectively true, I'm telling you something that is objectively true, there is a big distinction between you've snuck in a huge degree of subjectivity and you've tried to pass it off as objectivity. You're saying that's the word of God and the word of God is objectively true, but you're not saying that's the word of God and that's objectively true. You're saying my understanding of the word of God is objectively true and I'm passing that on to you. That's a much different statement. It's a far different statement. I think that's what Peterson is, I think, about to talk about. These two things are very, very, very different. Not that writing in the word of God is objectively true, but my subjective interpretation of it inherits some kind of objective truthfulness from it, right? Because that's objectively true. I can inherit that objective truthness and then convey it to you, but that's not true. There's a huge degree of subjectivity and interpretation of everything. Necessarily, you're subjective. I think, right? Everything that passes through human experience is definitionally, I think, subjective, right?
Correct.
But
literal word of. They claim that the Quran say, or
this is from 5 years ago. Oh, so he wasn't fully retarded by 2018, August 31st, 2018. Sorry, okay.
the Bible for that matter, is the.
You didn't substantiate how conservatives are begging the question when they say a woman is an adult human female. Because woman and female are because woman and female are the words that we're trying to define. And using a word or a synonym of a word and definition for a word is oftentimes unsatisfying. When we're trying to say what is a woman, we're typically asking for some criteria or some things that substantiate, well, what is a woman, right? And if you just say, oh, female, well, you're restating it with another word. We're not really arriving at we're not saying anything meaningful there, right?
Literal word of God. But more than that, they claim that their understanding of that word is correct.
Adult, female, adult is the difference? No, it's not. No, it's not. And I refuse to believe that you actually think that. That was uttered in bad faith. You think when people are saying, what is a woman, the confusion they're having there is the age? You're wrong. You're lying or you're just stupid. The confusion about a woman isn't how old she is. So saying adult human female, the adult part is pointless. Like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess what is a girl? Is that an adolescent human female? Also, the human is irrelevant. We don't have a problem distinguishing between human and non-human, right? So we're really talking about an adult female. We're not having a problem distinguishing age. That's not the question. The question is the ontological category of woman. What is the content of woman? What is that? What is within that, right? And to say, well, it's a female. Okay, well, what is a female? If you have content for female, then give that.
Literal word of God. But more than that, they claim that their understanding of that word is correct, which means they conflate two things. Like, because you could imagine a situation where you had a book, and I'm not saying this is the case, it's an imaginative exercise, where you had a book that had all the answers, that was extraordinarily complicated. And so that when you read it, it wouldn't be obvious that you understood it.
Why is XX chromosome not a satisfactory definition? You haven't elaborated on that. It can be a definition. That could be one you can use. That's fine. But the problem is that if you're conservative, you just can't engage with the question. You're so mind rotted that you're incapable of even considering any conversation here because there's too much at stake. You would have to admit to yourself that you've lived your life as a meandering, clueless retard, okay, that's wandering the planet, lost, okay, to the world of any type of intellectual thought to even admit that you might have to reconsider this. But for anybody who is in good faith wondering, if you want to say that, like, oh, a woman is an XX chromosome, right? Okay, now that's interesting that you would say that. However, let me draw an analogy, okay? We can go back to the professor that was arguing with Vosh. Well, if you say that a woman is an XX chromosome, what about when we go back 1,000 years and they had women? Women existed back then, right? But were there XX chromosomes back then? Did we have an understanding of chromosomes in the year 1000? In the year 1500? In 1000 BCE? In 5000 BCE? Like, no, we didn't know any of these things. But we still had women. We still had men. So it seems like there's something more going on in that. And in a day-to-day use, when we talk about women and men, it seems like we're talking about something more than just chromosomes, right? It seems like there's something more going on there. When you say, wow, that boy hits like a girl, are we saying, man, you are exhibiting X chromosomes right now? No. It seems like there's more content to these words, right? We're implying, some different level of physical strength, some different level of athletic capability, some different, there are other things. There's more content to these words. but conservatives are petrified of even engaging with that conversation.
Conflate two things, like, because you could imagine a situation where you had a book, and I'm not saying this is the case, it's an imaginative exercise, where you had a book that had all the answers, that was extraordinarily complicated. And so that when you read it, it wouldn't be obvious that you understood it. Or perhaps it wouldn't be obvious that you didn't understand it either, but you're not going to be able to, you can't get an uninterpreted version of the book. And so the fundamentalist claim is far worse. It's that not only is there an absolute reality, truth, embedded in the book, but that their particular take on that absolute reality is the absolute take on that book.
So if the right-wing realists can't pin down objective truth, and the left-wing nominalists don't believe in universal objective truth,
that's a, you know what, that's a good analogy to it. I guess another analogy you could use is the 42 answer, right? There's a book called A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I think there's some sentient alien species builds like the best, smartest supercomputer in the world, and I think they ask it like, what's the meaning to life or something, and then the computer says 42, and everybody's like, wait, well, what the fuck? Well, hold on, wait, what is that? What is that? They either ask it for an interpretation, like, what does that mean? Or they might ask, like, well, what's a better question or something? And then the computer's like, okay, well, I need another 50 million years to actually calculate that. And it's like, okay, well, fuck us, right? So in that case, the answer doesn't do anything for you because, I mean, so now it's up to your interpretation of the answer. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Yeah.
On that book.
So if the right-wing realists can't pin down objective truth, and the left-wing nominalists don't believe in universal objective truth to begin with, who can we turn to for answers?
Unironically, I don't even know if he would stand by his answer because he's so unhinged now. Jordan Peterson actually gave the best answer on that documentary for What is a Woman. If you're not retarded, it's actually an insightfully correct answer, but I don't even know if Peterson knew how insightful or correct it was.
We've been journeying across the country asking people this question, and almost nobody can answer it.
What is a woman?
What is a woman?
Marry one and find out.
Yeah, at this point, with the deterioration of his brain due to drugs and conservative mind rot, that is the answer, right? I think language arises through use. We say things and then we understand what other people are saying, and then through like common parlance and everything, we develop language like this. Yeah, this is what happens, right? Well, what is a particular thing? Well, I don't know. Go out in the world and engage with it, right? And then have some kind of like semantic understanding of the thing. Fill it with some content. Engage with the qualia, the likeness of the thing. Like, yeah, this is how you discover what things refer to. That's technically the use case is the correct answer. What Peterson's answer is completely correct. Now, I don't know if he was saying that with any level of linguistic insight or any like philosophical understanding of what he's saying there about language, but that is how we discover what words are, what language means, how things are. It's as you use concepts and become familiar with them, and you have some sort of experience with them. This is how we develop language and vocabulary and communicate from person to person. That is what it is. So if you want to know what a particular thing is, truly the only way to know what that thing is to go out and experience it.
Now, putting aside Destiny's proclivity to sound like an insecure teenage girl.
Haven't you literally said in a prior debate that any tribal man with no understanding of gender would be able to differentiate between female and male? Yeah, my guess is going to be that all throughout human history, without having any idea about gametes and anything like that, people will probably be able to distinguish between male and female, generally speaking. Generally. Now, there were some outfits in the 60s that might be kind of... No. Generally, yeah, every person will. Even young children can, without having any understanding of difference between, like, gametes or chromosomes. They do a little bit of, like, kind of sexual exploration stuff. That's a little... It's not here or there. But, yeah, I think we have pretty intuitive understandings of the different sexes.
I don't know if he was saying that with any level of linguistic insight.
His broader point about Peterson's philosophy is correct. Peterson is operating from a philosophical framework that I and many others would regard as the best philosophical framework. It's called pragmatism, and I will once again lean on my champion spotlights to explain. As an epistemological pragmatist, Jordan Peterson wields fundamental concepts like truth and God in ways that can be confusing.
I think that fundamentalists and atheistic scientists have the same problem. The fundamentalists make the proposition that biblical stories are literal representations of the truth.
But that's because their definition of woman was a vagina. There's more content there, my dude. There's more content. There's more content than just having the sex organs. Like, again, this isn't an argument that's given in good faith. You know this. We all know this. Every human intuitively knows that there are more ways to identify somebody as male or female than knowing their chromosomes, knowing their gametes, knowing the sex organs they have, than knowing any of that. We all know that. A lot of us should be able to look at how somebody text messages, and we can probably figure out, like, this seems like a girl, this seems like a guy. Sometimes you can tell just by the way that people text, not even hear their voice, right? There's way more content to these words. Male and female. Than just like chromosomes or shit like that or whatever. Hold on one second.
That might be true depending on what you mean by literal. But what they mean by literal, or what they attempt to make literal mean, is that they're in the same category as scientific facts, because they don't have the idea that there are different ways of approaching truth.
By the way, the argument you made was bad. Water was used as an expression before discovering water is H2O, and yet water was and still is H2O. You're wrong, but for reasons that I'm too lazy to get into. But water is colloquially probably a tad more broad than H2O. H2O is referring to a very particular, very specific molecule that there's a whole bunch of stuff that we would very easily and very quickly call water. This is water without any more descriptors or anything than just pure solid H2O and solo only H2O. That's not true. We call water a lot more than that. Now you might talk about like the H2O part is an essential part of whatever this thing is that we call water for it to be water. Sure, that's probably true. But it's a bit broader than just H2O. Which is what the professor guy was kind of getting at, and Vosh was stumbling into a little bit, but...
Truths can serve different purposes. They don't have a sense that your definition of truth is actually something like a tool, rather than an ontological statement about the reality.
You mean the solution that we call water then? I believe a solution is something dissolved into something else. Is water considered a solution? Solution is when you make new molecules, right? Mixture is just when the things float together. Water is the molecule H2O, right? That we colloquially refer to as water. But if you look at, but if you drink like a bottle of water and you, and there's like minerals in it, you wouldn't say that like, oh, I'm drinking water plus minerals, or I'm drinking water with a little bit more deuterium in it, or like, so you know, you wouldn't say anything like that. You would just say, oh, it's just water. That's colloquially we refer to it as water.
Different purposes. They don't have a sense that your definition of truth is actually something like a tool, rather than an ontological statement about the reality of the world.
But Jordan, for example, knows like the religious texts better, right? And he understands pragmatism. That's philosophy. I fully agree with. So like he understands that truth is like a deeper, multidimensional word than correspondence to like facts, right? Or even honesty, just like blurting out what you think, right? Truth is a deeper thing. Like when Jesus says, "I'm the way, the truth, and life," he's talking more about like the arete, like you know what I mean, like the good, like almost like the pious, right?
Yeah.
Like the way to walk that works, right?
They might be predicated on pragmatic truths rather than objective truths. Pragmatic truths are truths that have functional utility. You know, they believe that your knowledge was a tool. Knowledge was a tool to advance being in the world, let's say, survival in the world, and that you...
What else do we call water that isn't H2O? Everything you drink. I don't know. I think if you want pure H2O, I think you can buy that at places, but it'll be more expensive than ordinary. Do they sell this at... I'm trying to think of... what do they call this? Is it just... distilled water, I think. But even I think distilled water will come in different levels of purity. Remove more than 99.9% of minerals. Does this remove? Is it called deuterium? Is this the? I don't remember this dumb shit. Hydrogen 2 or heavy hydrogen is a stable isotope of hydrogen that is 1 proton, 1 neutron, and 1 electron. What does hard water have more in it? What am I thinking of? Is hard water H2O with a deuterium isotope instead of hydrogen? I don't remember. Hold on. Let me think 1 second. Yes, it is. Okay. It's a form of water whose hydrogen atoms are all deuterium. Okay. So water that is heavy water, you will still call H2O, or you'll call it water, even though it's not technically like H2O. Because you're dealing with isotopes here. And then also water, like it's funny because distilled water is more H2O than a thing you would call water, right? But you would think that like water must be water and distilled water is something else. But if water is H2O, distilled water is more H2O than just water is H2O. Right? This is what I mean. I'm just saying that like I don't know why this isn't an argument. I'm just asking you to think a little bit more about the words that you say. Like, I'm not wrong on any of this. Like, none of this is even, you can't even argue from your side that this is correct. Like all of these words, this is how we use language. You don't learn language. None of you have ever in your life, well, unless you literally go to a dictionary, you don't go to the dictionary to learn words. You hear what people are saying around you. You look at the things that they're referring to, and then you fill that language. You fill those words with content, okay? Some mom keeps saying like, oh, cup, 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 cup. And every time mom says cup, she brings me something that she can hold in her hand and put something else in. Okay, I guess that's a cup, right? You're hearing something syntactically, you're getting a word, and then you're filling that with content from the world. Oh, this is a cup. That's a cup. Oh, that's a chair. That people are saying, oh, chair. This is how things develop. So when somebody asks you, well, what is a thing, right? Well, you give a general description of like, well, what is the content of this thing? What is it like? What do we do with it? What is the purpose of this thing? But for some reason, not for some reason, they have to because they're so religiously tied to the idea. But then we're like, okay, well, what is a woman? What does it mean? X chromosome, female gametes, hyper-specific sexual definition. Bro, nobody in the history of all of fucking mankind, unless you're like in a fucking laboratory, okay? Nobody is actually asking this question and answering it this way, right? There's tons of things that we think of. When we think of women, we think of men. Men tend to be taller, tend to be stronger, tend to have sometimes coarser skin. They like fashion-wise, they wear different clothes. They wear their hair in different ways. They might have different types of jewelry. They might speak in different ways. Their voices are different pitches. Like, just the idea of like, the idea that you answer in such a hyper-autistic way when none of our understanding of language works that way is just so goofy. But I mean, I say goofy, but people do it just because they have like this fucking adherence to this. It's gotta be this way.
You justified your knowledge not because you had final knowledge of anything, but because your tools were good enough to obtain the end that you were aiming at. That was the validation process. If your theory was good enough to get you to where you were aiming, then it was true enough. And the pragmatists believed that was the best that you could do with truth.
That is how we discover what words are, what language means, how things are. It's as you use concepts and become familiar with them, and you have some sort of experience with them. This is how we develop language and vocabulary and communicate from person to person.
Truth is not an object that exists independent of human consciousness, nor is it subjective to the point of infinite malleability and deconstruction. Truth is a transjective tool, and the purpose or usefulness or meaning of that tool exists in between the objective world of facts and objects and the subjective world of motivation and experience.
Meaning is like the graspability. Remember I talked about optimal grip? It's like the graspability of that cup. Is that in me? No. Is it in the cup? No, because a fly can't grasp it. Well, graspability is in my hand. Well, I can't grasp Africa. No. There is a real relation, fittedness, between me and this cup. Same thing with the adaptivity of an organism. Is the adaptivity of a great white shark in the great white shark? Drop it in the Sahara, it dies. Meaning isn't in me. I think that's romantic bullshit. And it isn't in the universe. It is a proper relationship. I've coined the phrase transjective. It is the binding relationship between the subjective and the objective.
The usefulness of a key is not a property of the key itself, but a transjective interaction between the key and a given lock. The infectiousness of a virus is not a property of the virus itself, but a transjective interaction between the shape of the spike protein and the receptors it binds to. So when Destiny says you can't see a chair, he is correctly pointing out that we do not see objective universal categories that exist independent of human beings. Instead, we see a landscape of tools and obstacles, the meaning of which is a transjective property that emerges from the interaction between the objective facts and the goals and motivations of the individual perceiving them. To put it poetically, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
The classic scientific idea is something like you perceive a universe of facts and derive conclusions and act. It's like, no, you don't. You perceive a landscape of pre-categorized relevance that's dependent on your ethic. Jesus, it's so peculiar that. Something like you perceive a...
To put it poetically, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
The classic scientific idea is something like you perceive a universe of facts and derive conclusions and act. It's like...
That's so dumb. He's going to say the opposite, right? You actually have your normativity doesn't come after the fact. You have normativity and you use that normative, that subjectivity to interpret the universe around you.
No, you don't. You perceive a landscape of pre-categorized relevance that's dependent on your ethic. Jesus, it's so peculiar that.
This is a very...
Where did this guy go? Where is he? Where is that Peterson at?
That's dependent on your ethic. Jesus. It's so peculiar that.
This is a very different way of looking at the world than a scientist or a computer might. Peterson actually gives a great example. Imagine you get an envelope with some important news in it. Scientifically, objectively, the envelope is a rectangle of paper and it has ink molecules printed on it, but that's not how you experience it. This envelope contains your past, your future, your test results, maybe the rest of your life. You experience it not just as an object, but as something with values and meaning.
Now look, let's be honest here. This shit is complicated. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're still confused because you're like, we see objects. I don't get how we don't see objects. That's fine. There's two things you should take away from this video. Number one, Destiny is probably autistic, which means he's very good at curating and applying lots of individual facts. But if he's not going to shore up his underlying metaphysics and philosophy, he's not going to be able to grasp at the important patterns that emerge from those facts. The other key takeaway is that truth is not just some subjective phenomenon based on language games, and it's not this purely objective phenomenon that only religious fundamentalists have access to. If you want to know what's true, the best thing you can do is just accept everything I say uncritically. Also, when CJ the X releases his 5...
What a retarded fucking statement. If you want to understand what's true, okay, you need to accept everything that I say uncritically.
Our video on Jordan Peterson, you should watch that too. Until then, as always, good luck and Godspeed.
If you just conceded that you can say that H2O is an essential aspect of the concept of water, why do you not concede that an X chromosome is an essential aspect of a woman? Like, do you understand how you're talking? Like, at any point in this conversation, have I conceded that H2O is an essential aspect of the concept of water? Like, did you have to argue or debate that out of me? Like, you're not engaged in an actual, like, good faith exploration of the topic. You just have a preconceived thing of like, this has got to be this fucking way, bro, or I'm gonna fucking lose it. And then you're doing whatever you can to cram everything into that box. Chill. My God.